simple. Y'all see the video. I haven't did a video like this in quite a while. But y'all pretty much can see the title. Y'all already know. And I haven't did a video like this in a while, but I always and will. I've been doing YouTube for a minute, since 2013. A friend of mine created the account for me, which I did not know how to create an account, in 2011, December the 9th, 2011, December the 9th, 2011. And during that time, I didn't know what YouTube was. When I first heard the word YouTube, I'm like, it just sounded foreign to me because I never heard that before. But YouTube has been around quite a while and quite some time now. And excuse me, I love YouTube. I first and foremost, I always and will love my people of color, my so-called black people. Even though that I feel like that they no, not I feel like I know that they don't. The majority of them don't really. I would say don't care nothing about me. All they care about is telling you you got the bag. But I understand. But the reason I'm saying I understand where it come from. I understand where it stemmed from. You know what I'm saying? It stemmed from slavery. It stemmed from our people being in captivity here in slavery in Babylon here in America. You see what I'm saying? As you can see the title, I don't like Uncle Tom's or Coons. I don't like Uncle Tom's or Coons because my people are very important to me. You see what I'm saying? I just don't. I don't like a person. Like, I looked at a video of someone. I'm not going to give no personal details, but I'm just going to kind of like walk around it just a little bit, just to give a little bit. They said a certain person had passed away. He was a YouTube. And then the person said in the video, well, I don't care. And he made sense in what he was saying in the video about the person that was talking about the person that's passed. When you have a history, and I don't see how a lot of my people can do that. How in the hell can you take and turn your camera on and shit on your own damn people? Because when you get ready to leave this earth, and when I look back on your life when you was on planet Earth, when you turned your camera on, what do you think people are gonna know you for? They may try to lie and uphold it for you or something like that. Because at the end of the day, Esau is not gonna get on his live and dog his woman like that. They just want to put us on here as a people of color. I don't call myself black because I know I'm not black. I'm not black. You know what I'm saying? But I do say that I am a person, a man of color. You see what I'm saying? I am a man of color, and I have mixture of different types of ancestors in my family and stuff like that. But I can more so I know in my heart, if I'm not mistaken, that I can relate to what the so-called black, the black man that call himself black. I can relate to the same struggle that he go through, even though I'm not black. You see what I'm saying? I'm not black. I'm just a man. I'm a person of color. That's it. Because black is only a color in a crayon box. I used to walk around probably years ago when I was like in my 20s and teens, and I called myself after I would say I'm black because I didn't know. That's all I knew at that time was just black or whatever. That's all I knew. I didn't know anything else. All I knew was like African American, this and that and the third. And I would just use what I was just basically repeated, things like that. You see what I'm saying? Or maybe every once in a while I use that word or that term Creole, because that's what, more than likely, that's what the people on my daddy's side, that's what they call themselves, Creole. You see what I'm saying? Which is it's just a byword. That's all it is. It's just mean Creole just simply means free people of color. The slaves came over here. Um, when the Frenchman came over here, and what did the Frenchman do? The Frenchman came over here and colonized, and the Native Americans, and they renamed these lands, and a lot of our people started calling themselves after a French name, because they named America after a French name, a Frenchman's name. And you can find examples of that right here. Let me show it to you. Let's go to Psalms 11, Psalm 49 and 11. Let's go there. Yeah, and that's where the name Creole come from. That's where it called free people of color, because during that time, the Frenchman, either they was having it, they had what was called black and Hispanic and ancestors and things of that nature. It was a lot of mixing that was going on during that time. French and Native American roots and Spanish roots. You see what I'm saying? Sometimes Spaniard roots, you know what I mean? The different, what you call ancestors. You had the French ancestors, which was Caucasian, and you had what was called the what you call these people, African ancestors, and then you got Spanish ancestors. And when you get these three nations going to mix it and going to, you know what I mean, sometimes the men, the Caucasian men, or either they would start mixing. They started mixing during that time, and that was decades ago, and that's where that branch derived from, and that's where they call it free people of color, because they call them like free slaves or something like that. It's like it was free. They call it free people of color. They was like they called them like they only gave them access to certain things, certain positions. They had what was called the so-called people of the so-called, they had what was called the white Creoles, then they had the Native American or black Creole, and then they had the Hispanics and all of those, Hispanic Creole or whatever you want to call it. And these people mixed, and that's why they got French and and French and Native American and Spanish ancestors. All of those three generations come things of um, three generations coming together and mixing. When you got these mixed race, that's why they would say Creole. They may say mixed race person, or they would say black and Creole. They would say black and Creole. You know what I'm saying? Or they would say something like French Creole. And after that happened, they put a separation between the natives. They put a separation between what was called the free people of color. And that's where that name Creole come from. It descends from a so-called Frenchman who was a slave owner. And that French name, now the difference between uh, Louisiana Creole is that they and Haitian Creole is what would be the difference? If one was called French Creole, which was Louisiana, so-called Louisiana French Creole, and then they had another one called Haitian Creole, because over in Haiti, when the Frenchman went over into Haiti, you know what I'm saying? They conquered that land. They conquered that part in Haiti over there because it was a lot of the so-called Haitians, which were the Africans and the French or whatever. They started calling them people Haiti, and then they named it after a French man, Haiti, because it represents that when they underwent some being Dutched and being stripped of their language and all of that, when they underwent, because they were stripped of their Hebrew language, just like we were stripped of our language and we was given an English language. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where you get Haitian, because the people went through a lot of hell over in Haiti, which they still going through it right now. Puerto Rico just means rich or poor. You see what I'm saying? And so that's where you get that word French Creole, because French was a French man, which was a so-called white man. You see what I'm saying? And they lied and colonized the Bible in a lot of different ways. Now let me show you the part where they conquered that land, conquered, and how they get these names. I want to show y'all how they get the names. Let's read Psalm 49 and 11. Their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. There, it says, their inward thoughts is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. That's what they did. They renamed these lands and they named them after a French or so-called white man. You see what I'm saying? And that's why a lot of our people run around here calling. That's where that name derived from Creole and all of that, because all Creole just simply mean free people of color, or whatever you want to call it. What's the other word they use? Slaves. It means slaves born in Louisiana, slaves born in America, whatever. However, how you want to slice it or dice it. You know what I'm saying? However way you want to slice it or dice it, that it is what it is, and that's how you get it, because you had that old nasty man, Christopher Columbus, the so-called white man that the Bible speaks of. Yes, he is the devil that the Bible speaks of. And they did these things, and and so on and so forth. That's how we got. Let me show you something else too, that and not only that, but these are things that happened to the children of Israel. Let me show you something. Let me get that for you as well, because I want our people to understand why we're going through what we're going through. Yeah. Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 20, I mean, excuse me, Deuteronomy chapter 1, verse 1. It says, these be the words which Moses spake unto all Israel. All these words. Now, what word? Let's go to Deuteronomy 28 and verse 1. These were words that Moses spake to the children of Israel. It's something that he told them that they would do in order to be able to keep getting the blessing. The Bible says in Deuteronomy chapter 28 and verse 1, and it shall come to pass, if thou shalt hearken diligently unto the voice of the Lord thy God. That means, the voice means the Bible. The voice means keeping the commandments. To observe, that means pay attention, careful attention. And to do all his commandments, which I commanded thee this day, that the Lord thy God will set thee on high above all nations of the earth, and all these blessings shall come upon thee and overtake thee, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God. Blessed shall thou be in the city, and blessed shall thou be in the field. If you look at us as a so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, if you look at the situation that I'm in, would you look at me? I can start with me. And based upon everything that I just said, is I'm considered blessed? Think about that. When you look at me as a nation, you may say simple things like, yeah, you blessed, you got your health, you got your strength. You may say something like, hold on, let me turn the camera around. Yeah, you may say something like, well, you blessed, you got food on your table and things of that nature. Or you may say, you blessed, you're alive. That's what they call a blessing, right? But according to God, you're blessed. You'll be blessed if you keep the commandments. That's the biblical definition of being blessed. But if you look at us now, would you say, if you look at me as a man and as a man of color, as you see, would you look at me and say that I'm at the top or I'm at the bottom? When I look at my life right now, I clearly can say that I'm at the bottom. I don't consider myself, because if I was at the top, I can be doing a little bit more for the people around me. If I was, when you more at the top, you see what I'm saying? Just like so-called white people, they are able to go out and they can show their families love because they never had a problem. Most of them never had a problem with resources, wealth, and things of that nature. You know what I mean? They always had nice cars. Most of them, the average white person always had cars. They always had everything. More than like, I'm talking about the majority of them as a nation, as a whole. You see what I'm saying? You may have a few here and yonder that maybe you may see homeless or whatever, but being blessed doesn't mean that just because you got a meal and you eating and you got food, that doesn't mean that you're blessed. Of course, you may be, it's something simple, and you can say, thank God for blessing me with to have something, have some food or whatever. But more than likely, you don't, you know what I mean? I forgot what I'm saying. I guess I'm kind of, my brain probably, I don't know. I just want to let y'all know that. But, if you look at us or look at our people as a nation, I don't consider myself blessed, because if you consider yourself blessed, you can go and, you know what I mean, you can do more. It's like you can do more. Like the sign of wealth means people that is not lacking in resources. You see what I'm saying? You're not lacking in no kind of resources. You can afford a Lamborghini. You can afford any type of car you want. That's my definition of being rich or whatever you want to call it. You see what I'm saying? But let me show you. All right, let me go on. Let's read verses 15 because I'm gonna skip. It says, it said, but it shall come to Deuteronomy 28 and 15. But it shall come to pass if thou wilt not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, and that's talking about keeping the commandments and obeying the Bible. That means get an understanding of the Bible, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses should come upon thee and overtake thee. The word curse just simply means to be devoted to destruction. That's all it means. It just simply means to be devoted to destruction. And then it goes on to tell you what the curses are. In verse 16, it says, cursed shall thou be in the city. The Bible says, cursed shall thou be in the city. So when you look at us as a nation, be honest with yourself, be honest. Do you think we are actually really blessed, or are we under the curse? You know, it said, but it shall come to pass if thou shalt will not hearken unto the voice of the Lord thy God, to observe to do all his commandments and his statutes, which I commanded thee this day, that all these curses shall come upon thee and overtake thee. You know? So, if when you think of a curse, just ask yourself this thing: is a curse a good thing or a bad thing? Think about that. Is a curse a good thing or a bad thing? Let's look at before I answer that question. Deuteronomy chapter 11 and verse 26. The Bible says, behold, I set before you this day a blessing and a curse. A blessing if ye will obey the commandments of the Lord your God, which I commanded you this day. Verse 28. A curse if ye will not obey the commandments of the Lord your God, but turn aside out of the way which I commanded you to go after other gods, which ye have not known. You know? So what I'm going to do, since I'm falling asleep, I can come back and I can talk a little bit more about that tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? Because I felt myself falling asleep, and I don't want to fall asleep and be people like, what the hell? What the hell happened? So I'm going to see y'all later, and I'm going to say I love y'all, and y'all take care.